Black people don't all have the same experience. Obviously, there's poor Black people, there's less educated Black people, more educated Black people. You know, there's Black people grew up in America, Black people grew up elsewhere. You know, there's the immigrant Africans. There's, you know, we all, you know, think different. Now, Candace Owens, I saw. I mean, I think it's unnecessarily inflammatory, the things that this woman says and writes. I don't know what, you know, I don't know what she's trying to achieve, but you know, she wrote something that I thought was, you know, sort of really unfair. So she was saying that, you know, I don't understand why Black people are unique in the sense that they always you know, they support and celebrate people who, you know, criminals, you know, that she was saying that, you know, George Floyd has been in and out of prison, you know, so many times and all the rest of it, and here we are protesting and
So
right,
she's
you know,
racist,
and all the rest of it.
Is
and
she
said,
racist?
and she said that we should not make him a martyr. She's obviously missing the point, because we're not saying that his lifestyle, how he's lived, is great or anything like that, or he's some saint. We're just saying that he deserves justice, like just like anybody else. There must be loads of white people who've been in and out and not being
seen and treated like a human being.
Yes, and treated like a human being.
What is the definition of a martyr?
It actually goes beyond that. It's not just the human element.
Dies
one at a time, guys. Okay,
Yeah.
Mary, finish.
What is the definition of a martyr? Someone who dies for a cause. That definition does not include being a saint.
No.
It does not include being someone with no record. It doesn't have any other qualification other than someone who dies for a cause. Knowingly or unknowingly, they die for a cause.
Yeah.
That is all that is required to be a martyr. So I don't understand why we can't make this man.
And not to and not to labor actually on, you know, that's just something that she said. Now, I mean, she said many different things over the months, and you know, she's quite you know, her views are quite sort of, you know, kind of very much the right. And she's
I don't even think her name deserves to be brought up, to be fair, because she's just far.
I don't even know who she is.
Yeah, but what I wanted to understand. Yeah, and what I wanted to understand, and just like there was what's her Amora? Is it Amora? Amara? She's got this double barrel surname. She was recently either fired or resigned from the White House. She used to be in the Trump administration as well.
I know her. Tall.
I know who you mean.
I know who you mean.
Omarosa or something like that.
Omarosa, yeah.
So why? So this another thing's worrying me is that Candace Owens, that, you know, and this is why it's so important to bring up her name, Cam, because Pence has invited her to be on some kind of, you know, panel discussion about how to move this conversation forward, and, you know, that kind of thing. And of all the people that he invited, she's one of the people that he's
but
invited.
Pence is a racist. Trump is a racist.
Yes, exactly, they're all racist.
It's a bit like my chief of care going to a gay white woman to write the diversity. I give up.
So what I'm worried about is the progress that we're trying to make, and that's the problem. There's always going to be, you know, not all, you know, people. We're not all going to be on the same song sheet. We're all going to, you know, be seeing things the same way and having the same lens. And I suppose it's more for you, Tosin, that, like, how do you cope with, I mean, you know, it's layers, isn't it? It's, you know, like trying to have those conversations with white people and then trying to have the same conversations actually with other Black people, that, you know, because I mean, there's you know, there's so many Black people actually that do support Trump, that support him, you know, and support his views, and, you know, that kind of thing. And I find it so incredible, but it happens, isn't it? It's, you know, it's reality.
And you know what? It's interesting that you actually talked about that, and you find it incredible. Yes, at the beginning I did. Guess what? Now I don't care. And when I say I don't care, I don't mean that they don't matter, or, you know, I don't want to give them my energy. Is that I've come to realize it's okay for them to exist in that space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
I agree.
It's actually okay for them to exist in that space. Because once you start allowing them to exist in the space where they agree with Trump's views, they agree with who he is, then they have to be forced to let you exist in your space. That's what equality is. Equality is not getting them to buy into your view.
Nope.
Yeah.
Equality is having different views, but existing in your own spaces
Mm.
in a civilized manner.
And to be respected. So for your opinion, your choice, your thinking, your beliefs,
Mm.
I respect all of that. That's fine. I don't agree with you.
Yeah. Of
Respect you.
course.
I don't have
That
to.
I think has been the story of racism is you're not even allowed to have your opinion, your thought, your belief.
No, I think for
Different
me,
from this, from others.
yeah,
You know, so
Yeah.
you are acceptable as a Black person if you fit in.
if you're quiet.
If
you-
you're the
Mm.
And
filter.
that's what I have a problem
Yeah.
with, Nikki. That's when you were talking about those people. It's okay. Omarosa can exist in her space. I can exist in my little house here in my space, right? The only thing is make sure that as you're existing,
Mm.
right, that you're not negatively impacting my way of life. You're not negatively impacting my children's way of life. You're not negatively impacting my husband. You're not negatively impacting my wider community.
Yeah.
You're not negatively impacting African American communities. That is the problem.
Because some people
So it's
don't know
not
they're
the
causing
difference in the
harm.
views.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's the harm though that I worry
it's
about,
the
the
harm that
unintended,
your views
the
do.
the
Yes,
unintended
exactly.
consequence of it.
Yeah,
And
but
pulling
if there
down
was
the Black
justice,
community.
But there was justice and if there was fairness, you wouldn't really be concerned about the harm, would you? Because it would be fair. Do you understand?
True.
Do you see what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
is where we need to address things. I mean, I think Al Sharpton said it really wonderfully at in the eulogy. You know, like get off our neck. Nobody's saying give us an advantage. Don't hobble all our attempts.
Oh, no, I am saying give us an advantage. Let me tell
I
you
know
why.
some people are.
Uzo.
Okay.
There's
go
been
on.
so many years
Yes,
of oppression in
Yes.
America
definitely.
that is
Level
systemic.
up.
Without a doubt,
The
redlining.
American community
Absolutely.
they literally need a physical hand
Yeah,
to grab them out.
yeah.
There's no coming out of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched a documentary actually where I didn't realize this, but the whole financial crisis came about because these subprime loans were created
Banks, yeah.
and they were created and offered almost exclusively to Black
Specifically.
people.
Specifically for the Black community.
So they created these rubbish. It was like junk bonds in the past. Created this rubbish products that they knew didn't really have any substance to it, and went intentionally into Black communities and offered them these interest rates that were beyond belief, or basically offered them these houses for no money down at all. Not really talking about the fine print and how.
But you know the issue is
everything would twist, and they would not be able to actually serve.
Further enslaving an already impoverished people.
Yes,
exactly. But you know,
exploitation.
Tolu, what's worse about
Exploitation.
what's worse about that is it happened the first time. They thought, okay, let's always give people the benefit of the doubt. They thought, oh, we thought we were giving them economic power to, you know, buy houses. Okay, fine. You made a mistake. You didn't, you know, capitalize on when it was going down the hill. You didn't do better. We find you. Let's all move on.
Yeah. Did it again.
Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
It happened again.
That if you haven't watched that Wells Fargo
Fargo
documentary on
they
Netflix, you
just
have to go watch
got-
that
yes.
documentary.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Fined again for the same freaking crime.
Yeah.
For the
But
same
then-
thing.
But then it's that's the whole part of the systemic racism, isn't it? Because the system
It's systemic.
allows for that to have been offered in the first place. There is a duty of care that should be a foundation, a basis, and that duty of care seems to slip whenever it comes to something for the Black community.
So I have to tell you guys what happened.
You go.
Sorry, Tolu. I have to tell you guys what happened yesterday. So I got off work late, you know, it's been a long week. And my daughter and I have kind of created this culture between both of us. It started kind of like as a bonding exercise, but now, you know, it's actually, you know, I said one day in passing, I was like, oh my goodness, Rimike, since we started taking our walks together, I've learned so much more about you. I've always seen her in this, you know, she's a little girl. She's always been very precarious. She speaks out a lot. So I've always thought she was just precarious, she's just vocal. But I've learned, you know, through this COVID thing, being forced to spend more time with our kids, that I'm saying that she's actually pretty deep. You know what I'm saying? She's she's not a kid anymore. She's actually grown up faster than I would like, but she's grown up. And so I said that in passing. It was just, hey, I really love our works. And she said, oh, Mom, you haven't seen anything yet.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But as you know, COVID went on, I spent less and less time doing those walks with her. And, you know, I fell back into my whole habit of just always working. And yesterday she was like, Mom, are you done? She started asking me at 2. Are you done? Are you done? I was like, no, okay, just 5 more minutes. I'm always like 5 more minutes, you know. And eventually it was around like 7:30. I said, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go upstairs, run and take a shower, because of course I was made up, but I hadn't taken a shower for the day. But I'm gonna run upstairs and take a shower, and then we can go for the walk. So by the time I got done and everything, it was like 8 o'clock, but it was still light out. So we go for a walk, and we're walking, and she's talking to me about, she's starting a new school come September. And she's talking to me about, you know, her fears about starting a new school, and, you know, the riots and, you know, the protesting. And she asked me, what's the difference between protest and riot? And we, you know, we're talking about all those things. And, you know, I'm just like, oh my God, this girl and the deepness, you know. So we're just, you know, and we're laughing in between, you know, we're still keeping it light. And then all of a sudden she said, oh, Mom, my stomach hurts. By now we're about 2 miles away from the house. Our walks are normally about 4 miles average. And we're about 2 miles away from the house. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, oh, it's okay. I think I'll be fine. 20 more yards. And she's like, oh, Mom, my stomach really hurts. I was like, what happened? You know, should we go back? Should we turn back home? I can call Dad to come get us. She's like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I was like, what? You don't think you're going to make what? And she was like, Mom, I need to go to the bathroom. So apparently she must have gotten like a sudden, you know, like running stomach. I was like, oh my goodness, no. We'll make it home. So let's go. So now I'm panicked, and I'm like, let's go. And she's like, Mom, I'm not gonna make it. And you could tell her mind is already calculating. She's looking around and she's looking at trees. I'm like, Mimike, you cannot. There's no cover here. There's no way. It's not going to happen. Let's just walk. I'm calling Sam. Sam, we're at the junction of this and this. Come get us, please. Hurry. Sam is like, what happened? I said, I don't know, but she's, you know, she's getting the earth. And Sam is like, just find a house. By now, it's 8:30, you know, about 9. It's beginning to get dark. And then we have a power outage in my area. I've actually not had power for the past 3 days, right? We had a mini tornado on Wednesday. It's been storming ever since. So it's now every house is dark and everything. I'm like, no. I'm not gonna go knock on, you know, some random person's door in an affluent neighborhood, and then they'll think, well, what is this black person? You know what I'm saying? In this environment, I was like, no, Rebecca, we'll make it. So she starts to walk. You can see her, she's kind of clenched. You can tell that she's now desperate. So eventually I was like, she's not gonna make it. I don't want her confidence and everything to be shattered by this horrible experience. Let me give in. So I look for, you know, a roughage somewhere. It's so embarrassing, you know, for her. I look for a roughage somewhere. I'm putting the leaves. I'm calling someone. I'm like, come now, you know, and everything. Anyway, eventually, you know, I do something little. She, you know, had a business. Luckily, she didn't stain herself. She was happy about that. And so by then, Sam had come. So I said, Sam, let's just take care of her first. Because she was like, Mom, everybody can see me. I said, nobody can see you. Luckily for us, that road was closed because there was a falling tree. Nobody can see you. You're fine. Don't worry, honey. And you're trying to encourage her because now she's embarrassed. She, you know, just normal things that a little girl would go through. I said, don't worry about it. This is fine. It happens. You got sick. Don't worry about it. So we take her home. This road is closed because there's a fallen tree. We take her home by car. Our house is 40 seconds away. That's how close we are. You know, it's not. So my husband picks her up. We take her home. You know, we take care of her, everything. And then I told Sam, I said, I have to go back there and I have to go clean up, right? Because my neighborhood is important to me. So I didn't have to do that. You know, nobody saw me. But I was like, no, that's just not what we do. So I went back there. I had, like, you know, my Nigerian broom and water and everything. And I went back there and I cleaned everything. I had gloves. I cleaned everything up. And, you know, I make sure that I, you know, everything. It was in the bushes somewhere, but I still wanted to clean it up. So I cleaned everything up. By now, there's 2 houses on the other side of the road. By now, there are 2 guys that have come out of their houses and they're just standing there. Sam drove me out there. It's a Mercedes-Benz truck. It's, you know, it's not a cheap car. And Sam is in the car waiting for me. My son is in the front. Rimike is at home, you know, getting cleaned up with the nanny. And you know, I'm outside cleaning up and I'm gathering everything. I'm putting in a trash bag and I'm, you know, using the Nigerian boom to sweep the area, you know, doing my due diligence. And I'm done. And I, you know, remove the gloves, put it in the trash, and I'm washing my hand in front of the car. Remember, the road is blocked, so there's nobody else coming. And these guys are standing out there.
Don't tell me they
And
thought
then-
you just buried a body. Honestly,
These
like
guys are
my
standing
heart, I'm
out
just
there.
like, where's this story going?
Believe it or not, Nikki, this happened last night.
Oh,
It didn't happen a year ago. It didn't happen 2 weeks ago. It happened last night. I'm just telling you that these are everyday things.
So what happened next?
So Sam says, Tosin, just move slowly. One of them has a gun.
what?
Remember, he's allowed to have a gun.
Yep.
It's dark. He thinks this is somebody trying to come to, I don't know, whatever he thinks. I don't know. Because Sam
It
didn't
looks
come out of the car,
suspicious.
knowing fully well what his build is. He was like, I'll stay in the car. All right, you go clean up. So he says, one of them has a gun. And I go, what? So I'm like, I'm going to yell and say, I'm cleaning things up. Why do you have a gun? And Sam was like,
Don't do that.
don't escalate, de-escalate. And I was like, so now what? Because I'm standing still now. I have a jug and a trash bag in my hand. My hands are both. Yeah, I said, so what? I have to go to the back of the car to put these things in the car. And you're telling me not to move suddenly, you know? And think about this. This is all happening within like seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so what do I do? And Sam is like, I think the best thing is for Rotimi. My son is 7 years old.
7.
He said, I think the best thing is for Rotimi to get down so they see that there's a little child there. So he said, Rotimi, get out of the car.
Go to help your mom.
Here I was. You guys have to remember, just a week ago, I had penned this letter where I had seemingly kind of said, thank you guys, this is what's happening to my husband. You guys have free willingly emasculated him because he has to use his children to protect himself. Well, guess what?
You too.
God was showing me that this is what happens.
Your children are your shield.
They're your shield. So my husband gets out of the car and he steps out and he's doing exactly what his dad told him. Rotimi, just walk towards the side and come around. And he walks around the front of the car and he comes to me and then he takes me and then we walk around the side of the car. And the whole time I'm, you know, eye contact with these guys. It's now really, you know, not really dark, but, you know, evening kind of dark. Sun is setting. So I walk to the trunk of the car. I put the stuff in the car. You know, I wash my hands. And then as I'm about to get in the car, one of them is actually starting to walk down the driveway. I'm like, Sam, what should I do? I don't want to get in the car because this is wrong. Now I'm getting mad.
Yep.
Wrong. And Sam is like, just get in the car. I was like, no, this is wrong. And he was like, get in the car. I'm going to listen to my husband. So I got in the car and he floored it and we backed up. But guess what? Right after this interview, I've made up my mind. He's not home. I'm going to go over to that house because that house is on my street. He's my neighbor. I'm going to go there and I'm going to tell him, sir, I know it's light now so you can see me. I was the person that you were brandishing your gun at yesterday. I had my 7-year-old son with me and my husband. What are you afraid of? You know what happened? I'm taking a walk with my daughter. She had an accident. I could have left it there.
And you know, as you say this, my heart is really beating and I want to say, please don't go back to this house. Because my heart is beating. Like literally.
That's how I
No, but you know why it's important to go?
It's
You know why it's
important.
important to go? No, it's important to go. Let me tell you why. Because I think there's a part of them that justifies this.
Yeah.
And you have to see things from their perspective.
Yeah.
There's unrest in America.
I get it. I get it.
There
I
is.
get it.
It's dark. There's no light. They're probably afraid, even if I call the cops, it's going to take the cops a little while to come here because the road is closed, there are trees down and everything. I need to protect my family. You
But
cannot
why
blame
is that
guy
their,
for
why
wanting to
is
protect
that
his-
their point of view? That's
Why is that
everybody's
your
point
go-to?
of view.
And then the question is, if that was a white family walking down the road,
That's
cleaning
it.
up trash, would you be brandishing a gun in
That's
front
the
of my 7-year-old son?
That's the issue. So when you
7-year-old
say we
son,
understand
I'm
from
gonna
their
start
point
crying
of
because this thing is BS. I can't take this thing anymore. I have kids. I
view,
can't have my kids constantly being threatened. How my kids grow up in this environment. I'm done.
yeah, I know.
Okay? For my daughter to have an urgent need or an accident, what is wrong with that? Your kids have those health problems as well. Why do we have to go through that? Because you're not tolerant to us kids.
Babe.
7-year-old, he has a gun in his house. We don't have a gun in my house. Has 7-year-old ever seen a gun? My 7-year-old has been called a nigger. How many times in his lifetime? He's not 7 yet.
And for anyone that wants to see how people feel
Yeah.
or what they go through, this is the reality. You have a wow. So they go about doing things because they're afraid and don't have enough empathy to see the fear that we live with all the time.
Even sure if it's the
I'm
fear.
sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry, babe. Don't be
I'm not
sorry.
even sure that I can always justify their actions by fear. I just think that because it's gone on for so long and it's been excused, the way that it's been excused has normalized this, and it has dehumanized us. When a white person is talking to a black person, they don't see a person. They don't see a person because there is no way, it's not in the human nature to treat another human being that way, unless you're equating that human being to be an animal or a non-living thing. You only
I live in the same place as you. We pay the same taxes. Our kids go to the same school.
Oh, that's it.
And your response is to come out. You can tell that this is not somebody trying to loot you. We're not in your driveway. We're on the main road.
Yeah.
They stood there for the whole 10 minutes that I was cleaning that crap up.
And you see, that's the difference between the UK and America, Tosin, right? You're not allowed to have guns here. But even if you were, the owner of that house would have waited for you inside his property and would wait to see whether you would reach his property and then do something.
Exactly. That's my point. Let me approach your property.
Exactly. Approach my property first. Then we have an issue. I'm just going to come out here and threaten you, whether or not I know, just based on the color of your skin. I don't know anything about you. I don't know what you're doing. Right. And that, I think, is the issue. That's the big gap, or the difference rather, between there and here, and why we are able to quite happily walk around in this bubble that we are in, I think.
I'm not sure that it's that. The difference that I see is that there is no immediate risk of loss of life.
Yes, exactly, because it's not overt. It's covert.
Since I moved here to Coventry, I have been, in fact, I'm not just going to say me, my husband and I, he gets it more than I do, actually. I think I get it less because I'm a woman. He gets it a lot more. Every single time my husband goes to a shop, we have a Morrison's not too far from us and a Sainsbury's on the other side. We've stopped going to both now because it's almost like clockwork. Every single time my husband goes to the Morrison's or the Sainsbury's, he will have an altercation with somebody.
Altercation.
And usually, it's usually one of the attendants in either of the shops.
Probably following him around as he enters the shop, right?
And it's over really stupid things. Since this COVID, the last straw for him, when he said he's not going anymore, he was standing in line with everybody else. Somebody else that he knew, he saw the person pull in, and that person walked to him, and they were having a conversation. That person kept his marker in the line further away from him and was talking to my husband because they knew each other. the line kept moving. When my husband got to his turn, the white attendant at the door refused him entry. And my husband said, why? He said, the law says two people that know each other can't go in with each other. And my husband said, no, that's not
He's
what the
not
law
going in
says.
with me.
The law says household. He is not a member of my household. He came here just because I know him. We're just having a conversation. He actually gave me a mask. We're not of the same household. And the person said, no, the two of you, the way you're talking, it looks like you're from the same household. My husband said, this is a
It
man
looks
like me,
like.
taller than I am. Are you blind?
No, it's not.
Do we
You
look
should have
alike?
just said, you're my brother now, because it
It
looks like it.
degenerated so quickly. Before my husband could blink, the white security guard had stepped out of the store and shoved him.
What?
Shoved him. Physically shoved him. And told him to get his black ass out of the line.
So the person that he was speaking to, your husband was speaking to, is he
He's
Caucasian?
black. He's Nigerian. He's black too. And that has happened to us a lot in the 5 years that we've been here in Coventry. You guys know my husband. He's normally very successful, but he's got a fiery side. My husband he's a true typical Nigerian man. He'll take off his shirt and he will rumble with whoever it is at that point in time. I think since meeting me, and because I keep telling him, you have a family now, you've got to calm down. Not everything needs to escalate into violence that quickly. Try and look for a non-violent way of resolving issues. I think I just thank God that he heard my voice that day. He just picked up his glove and he got in the car and drove away. If it had been him before me, they would have had a major altercation and somebody would have had to call the police at that point. Now, if that had happened in America, my husband would have been dead. Somebody would have shot him. Somebody would have shot him.
Be in jail.
Somebody would have shot him.
He'll be shot. It will either be shot or it will have a record because he would have been arrested. Even if he was released the same day, he has a record because he would have been arrested.
I explained to my 13-year-old daughter, the only difference, one of the differences is our police here are not armed. Before you see an armed policeman, you're talking about whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're not armed. And for that, we are eternally grateful.
Amen.
The police here in the UK are just as racist.
Oh, they
just
are.
as defending.
Covert.
They're just as bad.
Covert.
But the only thing is that because they are wrapped in so much bureaucratic red tape, it doesn't allow them to flex their muscles as much. And
we don't even have an option.
In the US, you guys don't have.
There's so many guns out there. They have to arm police. I don't think that defunding police is the answer.
My neighbor on this side of me has hated the fact that they've had black neighbors since we moved here. And they see every opportunity to remind us that we are black. Every opportunity. The recent one has now, they've raised the fence on their side. And that's because they've got a dropped curb, we don't. And usually when my husband, and we have a telephone pole in front of our driveway. So you need a bit of maneuvering to park the car on the driveway. My husband used to go via their driveway in order to get to ours. Do you know they put up a fence? A big fence to demarcate their driveway to stop my husband from using their drop curb. And the lady of the house had the nerve to tell my husband that if you're having difficulty moving your bin, you can lift your bin over the fence into my yard to get your bin out. And my husband said, you want me to lift a bin that's already full? Why didn't you think, were you thinking about me when you did this?
He's very strong, don't you know? Strong black man.
Yeah, he's muscular. But
I was just going to call him Django. Because it's Django. You know what I'm saying?
Microaggression. And then she said, oh, well, you know the way you guys
Let's not even talk about microaggression.
Put your mind to. And my husband said, who are you guys? Who are the you guys that you're referring to? I'm sure, again, he heard my voice. He just promptly walked into the house and closed the door. But every opportunity that I faced it in Morrison's as well, that same Morrison's. I faced it. I've faced all sorts of, silent name calling, being called a bitch under your breath. I've faced it all. And I didn't get as much when I lived in London, but since coming to Coventry, I faced it a lot. A lot. The only thing
that's another
is that there are no guns in this society. If there were.
But that's another thing too, what you said. Do you know why a lot of people are angry now? Is that there is a certain recollection of all of those things you've had to bury and just go on. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, faced being called the B word, faced being called, the N word. Your kids are going through what you don't want. But guess what? You wake up the next day and you're like, okay, kids, come and get ready for school. Let's go. And you just act normal.
You have to build normalcy into your life.
I mean, literally, do you know how many years of therapy we have to get to be okay? But somehow, because of our black skin, it's hide, right? You're just gonna have to, act like nothing. Yeah. And that's another thing.
That was rude to me.
So Sam took him out. They went with me. He's very athletic. He loves outdoors. So just to kind of get it off his mind, because he's been talking about it. What if the man comes to our house? I'm like, nobody's coming to our house. So he took him out to go bike riding today. You just have to, he's still 7 at the end of the day. He's young. Yeah. So we're trying to distract him with other things, take his mind off it. So we'll go bike riding. After that, Sammy said he's going to take him for ice cream. Just things that would just make him forget, hopefully. We hope he'll forget, but, and my daughter wasn't there, thank God, because she's very deep. She's going to blame herself for it. Yeah. She's going to go, it was because of me. Yeah. So instead of even dealing with, oh crap, that happened to me, I hate it, I had to do that. Now she's got to deal with, I'm the reason for. So I'm glad she wasn't there. There's a blessing.
How old is your daughter?
She's 9.
She's 9. Oh, she's really little.
But she's she's an old soul. She's an old soul. I mean, the kind of question she asked me. Oh, they're back. I heard a beep. Yep, they're back. So she's also the kind of question she's asking me. Like, she was asking me, what's the difference between protest and riots? She was asking me why, why people won't allow us to protest. Right? I said, where did you get that? Hi, Rimike. Hi, Wotimi.
Mommy.
Yes.
That's really astute for a 9-year-old. I've got an 8-year-old. I doubt she would be even thinking about
she's surrounded by it.
Riot and protest.
She's surrounded. So to keep in mind, we've had to change her school, 3 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she's a really good student. When I say really good, I mean she's very bright.
Yeah.
We're changing her school not because of educational, we're changing it because of, social issues.
Yeah. Wow.
Exposure to those things, they won't leave now because they're very nosy kids, but exposure to being called those names that I talked about.
Yeah.
Exposure to being left out of play groups. Like she told me yesterday when we were walking, she's starting a new school. It's a private school in September. And she said, Mom, yes, honey.
Mommy?
Yes, honey.
So we ordered pizza. If you want some, just
okay. I'm on the phone. Can you give me a break? Thank you, sweetie. All right. So, she was telling me, she said, Mom, can I tell you what is making me nervous about, Baldwin? And I said, what, honey? And she was like, we were walking. And she was like, it's not that it's not a good school. It's a really good school. I love everything about it. I love the fact that the teachers want to know more and everything. Mm-hmm. But my main concern is that I'm going to go there and I'm not going to have anybody who knows me. And so I have, she said, I have no anchor. I said, what do you mean anchor? And she said, Mom, somebody, wow. Yes. She said, somebody that is there for you. And I said, what do you mean? I said, you don't need anybody to be there for you. You're such a strong girl. You're so smart. You alarm me every time with the words that you use. I say, you don't need anybody. She said, no, Mom, you don't want, what if I don't have anything in common with those girls? I said, who are those girls? She said, the girls there. I said, they're not those girls. I said, don't call them that. I said, some of them are probably excited for you to join their school. I said, why don't I set up a play date with one of them? And then, she was like, but, Mom, my worry is that, when they're in a group, they've been together for so long and you know, they all have and talk the same way, but I talk different. You know, I look different, and they may not like that.
Oh,
That's what she said to me. She's right here.
and that is not
You know,
what 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds,
Be worrying
10-year-olds
about,
why is she worried about that, Nikki?
be worried about.
because it's her
Why is she worried
reality.
about that?
That
That's
is so
her-
painful. You know, and also, do you know what? Let's just be honest at the end of the day. This whole, you know, like, this is real eye-opener for me, all these stories that Tosin's just sharing with us. And I'm just thinking to myself, do you know, I mean, I feel so blessed. I didn't even have those experiences. Like, I'm 44, you know, back, you know, sort of 30 years ago. You know, despite, yes, you know, that some of the racism and things that do also happen in this country, you know, I still had a great childhood. And also, do you know what? I lived with a white nanny in Clacton-on-Sea. My first 5 years were with two women whose husbands had died in the war, and what they did was they used to not foster, because I wasn't fostered,
There
but
was
they,
called fostering, but
yeah, but
it
yeah,
wasn't
and so,
fostering.
and a lot of these the people that did that, it was you know, the Nigerians that came at that time, that, you know, my mum worked as a chambermaid. It was the days where you got paid £1 per bed you made. You know, my dad was working, and so there's a lot of, you know, Nigerians that were you know, you were doing these long hours, and so we all went, a lot of us had nannies, whether it was in Dover or somewhere that we were shipped off to. And so she had a few children, and we were all Nigerian, and oh my goodness. And her name was Marceline Room. And because when I started nursery there, people were asking, how comes your person is different colour from you, you know, obviously, as children would ask. So she said to us that we could call her Mummy Marcy. So not quite mummy. So it was like, you know, she's trying to think of what could we say that I'm not, you know, your mum, you know, is still going to come collect you, and you got your mother, but a way just to make this all work. So we called her Mummy Marcy, and Auntie Helen, who was the other woman she lived with, you know, the two of them, and they looked after us like we were their own. She didn't know what to do with my hair. My mum thought it was, you know, she couldn't believe that she, you know, she bathed us in the sink, but that was just, you know, like, and also remember they're kind of that period,
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
So she, you know, she bathed us in the kitchen sink, you know, and then just used to sort of do something funny with our hair, and my hair was always matted and just, you know, but you know what, my childhood there, like all my memories, I think we left there when I was 6, and we went to Nigeria for 2 years because my parents were trying to see if they could go back, and it didn't work, so we came back. But my memories were just amazing. They were so nice. They were lovely, and you know, and we lived in a house opposite a field, and we used to go out and, you know, climb trees and play with the, you know, the kids, and it was all, you know, white children, and I guess I can't imagine that anybody in America has those, can
No,
say.
some people probably did.
I had a conversation with a young man earlier today as I was getting ready for this, actually. And we met via LinkedIn yesterday. I put up a post on leadership requiring being brave and sometimes doing things that don't feel comfortable but are the right thing, etc., etc. And he liked the post, and he reached out to me via private message and said that I looked like I had a lot of experience, and he wanted to talk to me about his experiences. So we set up a call for today. And he's Nigerian as well, and he works for one of the big 4 accountancy firms.
Okay.
It's so interesting, the things that this young man shared with me, which is why I rolled my eyes when somebody mentioned diversity and inclusion thing that they do. It's just labels, means nothing. This man is one of the diversity champions within this organization.
Yeah.
And yet he told me of instances of horrible racism that he's faced in this organization. And I asked him, why haven't you spoken up before now? And he said to me, for the first time in our conversation, the British accent disappeared and his Nigerian accent came through.
Yeah.
And me, Auntie, I don't want to lose my job.
Yeah, of course.
My parents are in Nigeria. I have younger siblings that are putting through. If I lose my job, especially in this COVID, where do I start from? And so I had to use my words very carefully when he asked me for advice on what to do. I said, look, I'm going to assume that you are a Christian just like me, and you say yes. But when you go to bed at night and you feel that unsettling in your spirit, and you know that you've just gone through something that is wrong, you know it's wrong. That thing is unsettling you. It's making you unhappy. Your spirit is grieving because you've just gone through something. That is a call to action in your spirit.
Yeah.
The call to action doesn't need to be violent. It doesn't need to be aggressive, but it is an action. Look, when you're taking action, it doesn't mean that you need to respond violent for violent. That's not what it means. And the path of taking action does not look rosy. So you're fearing for your job. That looks, but you know that if you keep quiet and you keep your job, your spirit is grieved. And that's why you reached out to me. I'm not the first person on LinkedIn to put up a wonderful post about racism and everything, but you connected with me for a reason. And that's why we're having this conversation. And what you do after this conversation, again, will mean whether your spirit continues to be grieved or whether you find peace by what you do next. And I can't make that choice for you. For me, I was like you until I had a conversation with my chief exec on Friday. Since then, I feel peace within my spirit. Whether or not they now try to edge me out of the organization, the God that gave me the spirit to give me direction in the first place is not going to let anything untoward happen to me. So I feel free and I feel rested within my faith that I'm going to be fine. But I'm doing it not just for myself. I'm doing it for my children who are going to occupy positions of authority in organizations. I'm doing it for my other colleagues who don't have a voice, and they're probably looking to me as a voice. And I'm even doing it for my white friends so that they know that it's okay to have these conversations. And that, coming out and saying, Mary, I don't know what to say, but I just know I need to do something. That's okay. But for you, it might mean something different. And the choice of what you do is yours.
Yeah.
He listened and listened and listened. And he said to me, what he said to me afterwards, what stayed within my spirit. And I felt so bad for him. He said, actually, I've been oppressed for so long. I don't even recognize what you're saying as freedom.
Great. And that's exactly where I was going to come in, because I think, that's another thing I think Black people have an issue with. I'm a Christian. Anybody that knows me knows that my faith is deep. However, I feel that we shroud, or maybe not shroud, but you know how you spoke about Faith Tolu and you brought religion into it? I think that can also be a crutch for our people, because their minds are so closed to just, we have been enslaved by the religion as well. You walk away from one thing and then you put yourself into another pot that is bubbling your way and you have no idea. And so I try to extract faith and religion from these conversations, and that's why I say what is right and what is wrong is wrong. So if you are not able to identify that, you speak to our white friends, a lot of our white friends don't have the type of religion and faith that we
don't have it.
So you can't even explain it to them that way. So it's about do what is right. Be on the right side, whatever that is.
I get what you're saying. But for this young man, you could tell that he felt that he was on the cusp of making a life-changing decision.
Yes.
Which is what he shared with me.
Yes.
He has aged parents at home. He's putting his siblings through school.
Yes.
There is a deep-rooted fear that if he speaks up, he will. He's automatically assumed that speaking up equates I'm going to be fired. Which is
that might be a legit fear.
Absolutely.
No, but it's real. It's real because I said I felt it too until I had the conversation with my chief exec on Friday. I too was like you. I too have faced it, but I felt that please, I don't want any trouble. I just want to go about my job. I just want to do my job and just earn my money.
I don't think there's a black person in this.
Who hasn't
faced is that if you were pushed out of your organization, the likelihood of you actually finding something are much higher because you're a senior. So for this
Yeah, but
young
that's an
man,
assumption.
Exactly.
That's an
sorry?
assumption. There might
It's
be
an
I
assumption,
some
but you know
might
what? It's based on it, the assumption we make is a positive assumption based on the facts behind it. So the likelihood that, if you notice I use that word likelihood, probability, is that you will actually find something else because of the level you're at, because of the experience you have, because of
because of your qualifications. Yeah.
not even the qualification, it's her experience. I'm saying that, she has enough years behind her that confidence that gives her will allow her to show up in such a way that she probably will be snapped up. She doesn't ever talk about it, but she's been approached on LinkedIn all the time for non-executive director positions. So do you see, you are not afraid, or you perceive yourself to be freer than this young man does, because you have those options, you have those choices, you have those opportunities. In his situation, it's a real life thing. He probably, if he does get fired, it might really be that he doesn't find
have an impact. It will have an impact on him. Absolutely.
And so, of course, there's freedom. We all want freedom. We want freedom to be able to express exactly what we do. But like Tosin said earlier, there's a corporate responsibility as well. You're not foolish when you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just wanted to tap into the religion thing, just because I see it as not a helper all the time, but someone.
It's bondage. Call it what it is. Let's not tiptoe around it.
That's for our friends.
It's
That's for our people.
bondage.
It's certainly
Okay.
not appropriate in every situation. Absolutely.
Let's not tiptoe around it. It's bondage.
Yeah.
Because the reason
You know,
why
when you say anything, especially in the Nigerian community,
it feels blasphemous to say that because I have faith, but I don't believe in religion.
No. It's one of the reasons why the Black community has stayed so quiet for this long. Is one of the reasons.
bondage. It's bondage. It's another way to control.
Yeah, because we are so used to being enslaved in mentality, spirituality, in every way. We're just so used to being enslaved. And that's what he said. That I've been enslaved for so long, I don't even recognize what you're saying as freedom. He couldn't connect with what I was saying as a means of freedom, because he's just gone so used to being oppressed. It's, he recognizes that it's wrong, but there's a fear, a complete fear.
Let me ask you a question.
I do want to say something though that I would like for us to focus on in this. So we've talked about kind of our experiences and, all of the things that have gotten us to this point. We've gone through all the phases of, whatever this is, right? The phases of protest, anger, like.
So what should we
real
focus
deep
on?
Emotions, exactly. Like, I think we now have to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that for me, because of this platform that because of the kind of women that I'm talking to right now, I want to focus on the solution, not on the larger community, but from the corporate, angle. Because if you can influence people in your workplace, then they'll influence their own community, and then that community will influence the bigger community. That's how I see it. And so one of the things that I've kind of, one of the things that I've kind of started to do is challenge Black people, especially Black successful people, right? In executive positions in corporate America, or just the corporate industry in any way, is what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to do something that's going to get you fired. I understand that your livelihood is important to you. For those that don't mind, that are ready to fall on the sword for this, I actually want you as well. I like you. So there's a spectrum. There are those that, I don't really want to deal with this. I don't want this to kind of affect my livelihood. I've worked too hard. I understand you, sis. I understand you.
And Tosin, actually, it can be done in quite.
There's that spectrum, but there's also the spectrum of.
Yeah. And it can be done in actually a very easy way. There's lots of, there's actually lots of great opportunities. If we learn as much as we can, if we understand the history and the context of these things as much as we can, and we can articulate, because a lot of the time, if you are able to, it's like when they invite people onto Good Morning Britain, is it, sort of the Piers Morgan show, they always invite people on that are knowledgeable and are going to share and educate and be like, okay, you know what, you've been saying this, let me challenge you, but let me challenge you in, let me challenge you. Sorry?
Constructively.
Yeah, constructively, exactly. And so the more we know and understand, you know, so for instance, like it could be like, you know, simple little conversations, like when people say, I understand why, I understand sometimes why the black community, the white community are afraid of the black community, or that because that we're always on the TV, that you know, the black boys stabbing, or the black men, you know, shooting, or, you know, and then of course, because of racism and, you know, these constant protests, we're always rioting, we're the ones, you know, so there's kind of, there's an image, you know, there's no, is it, they say no fire without no something without something, you know. So, you know, so of course what people do is react to that. They're like, oh yes, but look, you know, they're always, you know, these people are always doing this, these people are always doing that, or, you know, that kind of thing. And then you could have those, you can have those constructive discussions that, do you know what, you're not wrong, that there's a high percentage of black, you know, young black men doing this, doing that. But I tell you what, you know, the reason why that is the case, because of a systematic, you know, sort of, you know, institution that has been put up in a way that has brought, that means that they don't have the same opportunities, you know, and it's kind of generational. You know, you talk about those things, you get people to understand the history of why you've got this situation, and that, you know, actually we've had examples like in Canada where they've shown that, you know, when you decide as a society that, okay, all of society can be helped if you help the worst parts of society, or the you know, the most, you know, the underclass, or whatever it is, however you want to, you know, call it. And there's been so much evidence of showing that when you put investment in to those areas, and you know, create opportunities, you do this, you do that, you know, that kind of thing, that they've seen, oh, that there, you know, there was this year there was a spike in gun crime, whatever, and suddenly it's gone down. So then it means, whereas if it didn't go down, it means that it's inherent in that group, isn't it, that no matter what you did, even if you moved them to Beverly Hills, they would still, you know, they would, you know, I live out in Oxfordshire, it's lovely, it's leafy, no one's carrying knives, no people, you know, they live in lovely houses, big gardens, you know, that kind of thing. That if people have opportunities and they can have nicer lives, do you see what I mean? There'll be no reason for you to do those things. And we all know, you know, like, even you don't even have to go to school now to know that there's such a link with poverty and criminality. So if you've got a system that is keeping certain groups constantly in poverty, those groups are always going to have, you know, criminal. So what people are doing is that they are commenting on the outcome, and they're not wrong
about
but they're not talking about, yeah, but how did causality first? And this is the kind of conversations that, and they're comfortable. It's comfortable because it's almost academic, isn't it? Yes. It's almost academic. These are the conversation, you know, that this is just me giving some sort of tactic and tools and ways to have, you know, so they don't always have to be radical, you know, Malcolm X and Black Power, you know, that kind of thing, that the sorts of things that make people uncomfortable. They can actually be constructive. And, you know, and there's a lot of people that are actually, like, you know, when you give them their evidence and you give them, you know, they're open to learn. I mean, if Piers Morgan can be rolled back, anybody can be rolled back. Piers Morgan, I couldn't believe it. You know, he said, you know what? I now understand what you're saying. So, you know, it's not.
And that's what matters.
It doesn't make you evil.
And that's what matters.
Something. Yeah. It doesn't make you evil when you don't get something. When I was growing up, you know, there's all these Nigerians always going, oh, Jamal people, as in, you know, the West Indians, they don't read, they're lazy, they're this, they're that. That's the same
generalization, absolutely.
That's the same thing that white people generally are saying about certain, you know, groups of black people. That whole, you know, and it's kind of like, yeah, but if you know, luckily for me, my dad was quite an activist, and so I grew up. My dad was the one who taught me about the Black Panthers. I knew about, you know, Stockley Carmichael, you know, Martin Luther King.
That's what I was going to talk about. Yeah. And the problem is a lot of black people aren't themselves educated.
Bobby Seale, you know. So when I challenge, when I challenge people, when I talk to people, I always want to come armed. I always want to, you know, again, you know, the examples I gave about the protest, you know, if any white person came to me and said, oh, but why are they looting? I'll be like, you know, I mean, you know, I could keep you there all day. I'll give you a whole list of, right, well, the miners' strike in this year, and you know, this happened, and you know, and that was fine. And they achieved the purpose of, we are angry, we are not taking this, we are, you know, no one is saying that, you know, like, oh, the French are terrible because they, you know, they.
And I'm no longer
waiting,
you know. I think part of alluding to that people don't realize, part of the alluding to, Nikia, that people don't realize is there's also, remember before this, there was COVID. People have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
People have lost their grandmas and their grandpas.
Yeah.
People have lost, hope.
Yeah.
They're homeless. They haven't been able to pay for 3 months. So they're homeless. They're staying with a family member who's probably maltreating them in one way or the other. And so people are desperate. They're hopeless. And they're just like, you know what? I'm no longer going to wait for the handout. How about I go get it?
Yeah, George Floyd was just
that's part of what's happening.
It was just the gunpowder. There was going to be an eruption in some way, and it's exploded to this extent because of we've been like in a melting, in like a cauldron for the last 10, 11 weeks, and this was just like the last story. Like, forget about it. That's it.
That's it. It's just
because if you keep people on the brink all the time, imagine if my whole way of life is that I've always just got £5 in my account every, that's all I've ever got in my account, and then something really big happens. Can you, if you keep people on the brink and then something like COVID happens, or that's what will happen. A lot of people, and I'm sure, I wonder how many white Americans know that there were so many laws that were put in place after slavery, because it was like, we don't have slavery anymore. They were, slavery is illegal. Slavery is illegal.
Them down.
So what they did is
it was just built to keep black people down.
So what they did was they found other ways of getting that free labor. So they introduced certain laws.
Legitimized. What they did was legitimize black labor.
So they introduced certain laws, like the whole jaywalking and stuff. After slavery, of course, people were set free. Here you go, you're set free, but remember, they never own their own homes. They don't have jobs. They're living on people's plantations.
So they're walking around.
Yeah, exactly. So these people are walking around. They're homeless. And they put in a law that would criminalize that criteria. Yep. So of course, who's walking around? And then America is it's really awful in terms of a record. So you get arrested, then you have a criminal record. And that's it. You can never do anything past. And so then they had all these black people that were working for free. So they had slavery, and how, I wonder, is that taught in school? How many people know these, all the coded, laws that were put in place just to,
and this is us again going back to educating them, which I personally think
educating ourselves first.
I think we educate ourselves, and that's where it lies, really. And so from my point of view, Tosin, answering your question about how are you going to help, what do you want to do? I mean, last year I had it in my heart. It's like, okay, I'm going to start to offer like coaching and mentoring en masse to young BAME professionals from 18 to 30, and just giving it away for free. And why did I want to do that? Because I kept seeing these incidences of people, and I never actually did it. And do you know why? I thought to myself, if I put myself out there as working with BAME people, what will they think? So that, it's taken this to get me to realize, oh my goodness, again, I'm trying to make you feel comfortable about something I know is essential. Right. And so
Uzo, it's so important that you said that just now. I'm serious. I have to stop you. I'm so sorry for interrupting you. But one of the other things that I want us to do as Black people that have a little bit of a voice, right, is to use our platforms to just be honest. It is so. I want to go back to what you said. It is important for us to admit where we fell short. Yeah. I think that is not just brave, but important. It is so important for you to admit that, hey, I did this because of that. You know what I'm saying? Because then what you're doing is you're actually speaking to both sides of the aisle. You're letting Black people know, listen, I could have done more, but I didn't. I failed you. And you're letting white people know, I'm now going to push back against that pressure.
This is it.
No more. I'm done.
No more, because I was like, I had set up the website. I think I told Tolu.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Do you remember I called you? I set up the website. I was going for it, and then the fear gripped me, and I thought, what are they going to think? I'm going to put myself in this little hole. My clients are white. I work with a white business school. What am I going to be portraying by saying I want to serve BAME professionals? What do I do? But now I've gotten to I'm not fast. I'm not fast. I'm going to put out posts, hello@augmentresults.com. Email me if you want it. we'll meet online in Zoom, and we will and I'll coach. Because I think what is missing is our people, our young professionals don't know how to, like you said, Nike, earlier on, articulate the microaggressions and the racism that they face in the workplace. There's no thing they can put
And so they
on and go, this happened.
internalizing it.
Exactly.
And
So
internalizing it.
they start to get paranoid. Is it me? Is it just me? Did this really happen? Is it really racist? Or I won't say anything. And then you go through your career like that.
But can I just say that
this young man,
something else happened? Something happened that actually made me realize, and I see it from the other point of view, that maybe sometimes I understand how this can be really important. Now, for instance, if you think about so the sort of 2 contracts ago, I worked for a global packaging company, and I was and sometimes I would just be away from home, in countries in Europe, and when you're with and depending on the kind of person you are, depends. I am quite lively, and I can pretty much talk to anybody, but sometimes even for me, it's still a bit difficult. And it's one thing to do it in the office environment, and then you're away in a hotel for 3 days with maybe a white colleague that you don't even really know, and then they're feeling the same things. Black. If you're an executive, you travel often, you're always in hotels, you're all, and you're building up a team, and you're going to spend so much of your time, and not just the 9 to 5 hours for those people who just work domestically and go into an office and then leave, but also some of your personal time in the evenings, and you've got nothing in common with what kind of team are you are not going to be thinking about diversity. You're going to be thinking, I want someone that I want to be, I can talk to about my football. I can that's the dynamics that happen with men and women as well. So if you've got a board that's 90, if you've got a board that is all men, unless you hire,
they're not going to be able, they're not going to have any,
unless
they
you
can't
hire,
speak on women issues, they can't speak on
well, I
challenges.
mean, what I mean is that unless you hire 5 women at once, you cannot, not that you cannot, but can you imagine the dynamics of putting just one woman in there, one woman in a board of 9 men? So it's either you get rid of 5 men and put 5 women in, but you don't just stick one in.
No, I know. I think I see what you're getting to, and definitely, you see, that's why I say that I think that's a job that I really can do very well, because my job is all about helping my clients see balance. And you can't come to me and say, oh, woe is me, nobody wants me to advance. And I challenge you and go, okay, so tell me why you should advance. Tell me why you deserve that promotion. So there's that side of things, but then there's the side of things where, do you know what, if you should advance and you're not advancing, then there's something else around that. And it's your job to own your own career and find very strategic, very professional ways to push back to get what you want. And that is, I think, is the language that is missing from the vocabulary of the BAME professionals, especially in the diaspora, that have these issues that are hidden, they're covert in the workplace. You can't be openly racist. And I think racist policy. Well,
and I think too, one of the things that a lot of people in corporate America are missing is first of all, like you said, identify, do you really deserve the advancement? Let's not make this about,
not about every black person.
Let's not play the race card here.
No.
Do you exactly? Do you deserve the advancement? Do you have the qualification? Do you have the experience? Can you do the job? Have you put in the work? All of those things. Ask yourself that. Make sure the answers to all of that is yes, yes, and yes, right? And then be able to back it up.
That's
actually have a professional reputation and a professional background that backs it up, right? Okay. So when you've surmounted that, then the next question is there something that's happening systematically within your organization that's stopping you from advancing? If the answer is yes, can you work your way around it? If the answer is I've tried and I'm not and it's not working, dude, remember, they're paying you, they don't own you.
That's it.
Leave.
Process of elimination.
What is wrong with leaving?
And also, one thing I've recognized in working with the clients I work with is these challenges are not always obvious, even to the perpetrators. I'll give you a very simple example. I was speaking to a client of mine, BAME. He's senior. He was in a meeting with his direct report and another senior leader who was a white male. And that white male said to his direct report, who was female and white, okay, sweetie, we'll get around to that. And they carried on the meeting as far as he was concerned. Later on, his direct report said to him, how could you allow the senior leader to talk to me that way? And he said, talk to you in what way? He said, that was clearly a microaggression. He referred to me as sweetie in a professional setting. He's not allowed to do that. And she took it to HR. My client, the BAME man, was oblivious. Didn't recognize it as a micro. He did not recognize there was anything wrong. So it's not always someone's fault. It's about awareness. And if we gain the vocabulary for ourselves, we can raise the awareness in others. That's what I think needs to happen in corporate.
Because in the gender politics, I think we've got that now.
Well,
because there was a time, or to some extent, because there was probably a time when, again, you couldn't articulate things like that. So, like, for instance, if someone calls you sweetie, they haven't done something nasty to you. And someone else might think, but that's like affectionate, you know, that kind of thing. And so in the past, you probably, how would you go to HR and put a grief away? Call me sweetie. They'll be like, right, okay, yeah, and you know, I'm waiting. Exactly. Whereas now we've got. But whereas now we've moved on, we've moved to the point where that's a legitimate claim, you know, patronizing, belittling, you know, that kind of thing.
So we need to move on.
So Nika, I'll challenge you on that one. So I understand what you mean. First of all, let me say that we have moved on. I do think that everybody's the wiser for it. That you know, this microaggression, especially against women, we've come a long way. You know, it's not okay to just say, okay, sweetie, I get that.
Well, we've only come a long way. We haven't won the war.
Exactly. So I guess, okay, so we're aligned. So what I was gonna say is, sometimes, believe it or not, if you're at a certain level, you know, in corporate America, and you're the only woman, like you're the only woman in the room. Not only are you the only woman, you're the only person of color in the room. So you're like a double minority, right? And it's just always been like that. At least for my own career, it's always been like that. And you kind of create a certain rapport with your teammates, because you spend a lot of your time at work, and so there's a little bit of a camaraderie there. And without knowing, it's grown into that situation where, you know, maybe you're talking and you're cracking jokes, and somebody's like, okay, sweetie, you know, let's get to work now. That happens a lot. It rubs you the wrong way. But the truth is, you do know this person, and you know that it was actually kind of like an unintended dig. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't what you perceived it to be, but it still happened. As a senior person, and now this is my problem, not everybody's problem. It's something that I got to deal with. As a senior person, I feel like if I go to HR with that, like, how petty are you? Do you understand? Like, figure out how to deal with that person. You're senior enough not to be running to HR every time there's a small issue, especially when you know the intent. So I know you're shaking your head, and I get, that's why I said I think this is my issue to deal with. Right? This is something that I have to deal with and figure out, well, am I thinking about it the right way, or am I thinking about it the wrong way? Now, I still strongly believe that there's certain things that he didn't come and, like, you know, did something overly sexual. You know what I'm saying? I felt like, you know, I didn't like that. That made me uncomfortable. I have two choices. Either I'm like, you know what, whatever.
Exactly.
Just ignorant for the moment, and just move on with it, in order to keep that, you know, very productive, very kind of jovial work environment that actually encourages people, that kind of, you know, encourages the creative spirit.
That's the thing.
And
it's really important as well. Whereas if
you throw that bitter bomb,
I know,
you throw that bitter bomb, you can't get it out.
No,
you can't
exactly.
Get it out. The minute, I'm telling you, you cannot take it back. You're involved in HR. And so I tend to, now, I'm not saying this is a solution for everybody. Remember, I said at a certain level in corporate America, If you're more junior, the person has a corporate responsibility to know better enough to call you sweetie, just by the sheer fact that you're more junior, because now it's condescending.
Yeah.
So that's different. I'm talking about my situation, the level I'm at.
So, Tolu, what's you're shaking your head.
Okay, so I can't really comment on that specific person that you just described. So I can't really comment on. I think there are a lot more issues going on there. First, it's a guy, and we know how
It's a white guy.
And there's so many other issues there. I think where I'm fundamentally disagreeing with Tosin's point is, yeah, it depends on the level you are at. If the word sweetie or whatever it is came from a senior,
or darling,
or please, you're making it. I'm cringing. Like my insides are just cringing.
They'll be like, no, darling, that's not right.
If it came from a senior person or your peer group, yeah, I get it. You want to evaluate the situation. You want to think about whether or not it's going to make things better or worse, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that you are thinking that one necessarily needs to invalidate the other is just wrong. Okay, that is just wrong. And this is me who's taking on HR.
What do you mean one
course of a year? Okay, you shouldn't necessarily be invalidating your own experience or your own feeling about that experience because you are trying to keep the peace, or you're trying to ensure you have a productive working relationship.
I agree, sis. I definitely agree.
In the same space. In fact, both need to exist in the same space.
Yeah.
You can't sacrifice one for the other, because guess what? Your experience is a legitimate experience. It made you uncomfortable for a reason. There was a reason why
but what I'm saying,
sweetie unnerved you or made you uncomfortable. And he doesn't have to smack your ass for it to be sexual.
I know. Okay? For you to feel less than. Yes. I completely agree with Tolu.
It can be sexual.
Yeah.
I completely agree. But what I'm saying is, you have other options to deal with it than to invite HR in.
You may not have other options than to invite it.
At my level, you do.
And as HR, as somebody who's HR, I think we just need to just be careful here. HR doesn't mean the guillotine. You do know that HR is big enough that there are dispute resolution people there. Yeah. There are people who do counseling within HR. There are people who do mediation within HR. HR is huge. Going to HR doesn't mean disciplinary action. In me, you going to HR is signaling that I need help to navigate this situation, and I don't think I can navigate it by myself.
But that's only if you did need help, though. I suppose also the point Tosin's trying to make is that you do. I think sometimes you do build the skills by the time you're at senior level to maybe to have these kind of conversations as well.
I think it depends on who it is.
Exactly.
If the person is senior to you or your colleague, you might think that you're senior enough to be, and I'm only saying this, maybe I'm triggered because I'm experiencing it right now, not from a sexual perspective, but from that microaggression perspective.
Something that happens
that I'm experiencing it with is my chief exec, who's supposed to be my direct line manager. So I'm feeling that, and it's interesting because I'm also head of HR, so there's nobody for me to go to with my issue other than him.
Yourself, girl.
So it's just me with my multiple personalities having to deal with all of this. It may not, and I'm teaching myself that just because I'm senior enough doesn't invalidate this experience or this feeling that I have.
True.
Yes, but then I question you, and I think you are possibly not seeing this middle alternative, this middle midway point possible solution. Like I started with the story. This direct report said to her line manager, "You didn't protect me in that situation," right? So she did voice it. She did speak on it. She did acknowledge it. She did point at it. And so something is going to be done. It was escalated to HR because of, I think it was consistent, it was happening a lot of the time and stuff like that. But if it was a one-off, it would be a bit immature, in my opinion. It's awful depending on the extent.
And petty.
But in the
No, no,
situation I just
it only takes the one time. It only takes the one time to start assist. What you said something just now. You said it was
I completely.
multiple incidents. It
Yes.
started off with
Yeah.
one.
with one.
Yeah,
It
with
started
one.
off
Yeah,
with one
yeah.
incident.
I
And then,
actually agree
and then
with
because
you,
she excused the first incident,
You're right.
then another one
I
came.
I
Then
actually
she
You're right.
excused the
completely agree
second one, and then the third one
with
came.
you.
And then it becomes a pattern
It
of
becomes a
behavior.
pattern.
A norm. It becomes a habit.
Stop it the
Mhm.
moment
I
you
think her approach was not fair though, because I'm thinking to myself that you know, the thing about relationships at work is that they're all on different levels, and some people do joke and banter that way. And I'm not gonna, if it's okay with you, I'll leave you with it.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not gonna, I wouldn't. So, for instance, like as soon as I heard someone say that to someone, oh my God, what, you know, especially if the other person said, oh, I don't have a problem with that. If she had just gone to him and said, you know, I wasn't comfortable with the fact that he called me sweetie. That's the right way to start. You didn't protect me.
Yeah.
How the hell would he know whether she, you know, how would he,
They
why would he just
Exactly.
assume that
And,
she
and
was very uncomfortable with it?
and that's what I said to him because he felt very bad about it. And I go, well, hang on. It could have been a different situation where you jumped in to defend her.
And then she said, oh my God, how,
I don't need you to protect me.
that's patronizing.
I'm like, dude, you did exactly the right thing in the moment. So now I'm raising your awareness. You can't win sometimes. And I think if we're honest about that, it's better. It's better for everyone. It's not black and white. It's multiple
No.
shades of gray.
Yeah.
That
And
is
dependent,
where the nuance
yeah.
comes in.
Yeah.
And we're all different, and actually we can all utilize and sometimes try and, you know, like I'm a humor person because I'm very
And learn from
with
each
being
other.
direct.
Equip each other with tools.
So I'm the kind of person
Yeah.
that would say,
Yeah.
oh, that's not at all. You know, that's got no swift of toxic masculinity whatsoever. You know, that I'm very like, you know, sarcastic and
Yeah.
you know, and I've you know, made my point in those ways before, and where people are like saying, oh yeah, my bad, you know, that kind of thing, where it's like, and then we're back to that. So we didn't have to have a very uncomfortable conversation, but I have let you know that, okay, just because I'm black, you know, and then
I'm
laugh
the
about
opposite.
it.
I'm actually the opposite.
You know,
Person's in your face.
I'm actually the opposite, Nikki. Like I'm the kind of person that it would hit me in the moment. It would really cut deep,
yeah,
and I just go. I literally just go quiet in the moment. But I would never. I don't know what it is. I would just never destroy unless it was like really blatantly just wrong, where other people like did the visible gasp. You know, that I have to speak up. But I prefer to always approach people one-on-one. Why? Because I learned a long time ago that sometimes, actually oftentimes, a lot of these microaggressions are out of ignorance.
That's it, they don't know.
A lot of them are just obtuse. When I say obtuse, I mean completely obtuse. It literally flew over their head. So when you go to them one-on-one, where they don't feel embarrassed, and you can undress them anyhow you want, one-on-one.
That's it.
Right? So when I'm facing you, I'm not saying, oh, you know, when you said blah, blah, blah in the room, that really offended me. I'm telling you, by the way, don't ever talk to me like that again.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And so I've already established a certain boundary that only you and I understand.
Yep.
Exactly. Very respectful.
Yeah, very respectful. Exactly.
Very direct. And I think that a lot of stuff gets lost in nuance. You know, we tiptoe around the thing. I do not
and
like
there's nobody there.
It's true.
I got my own back. You got your own back.
It's just you and I. We're just gonna set the facts.
Some things. We're coming on hour 5 here in this conversation.
Oh gosh, that's true.
Rather. So let's wrap things up a bit. What should people do?
I think that education, that awareness is really important.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nikki has said
have a voice and find your voice. First things first, find your voice. Great. Find your voice wherever, and finding your voice doesn't mean cause trouble. Finding your voice means speak up. Like I said, it's an issue that I'm dealing with. Guess what? I decided very recently, I'm done. I'm just done. If I'm feeling uncomfortable in the moment, I'm speaking up. If it makes you uncomfortable, I've done it for many years. You can do it for me now.
Yeah.
Okay? Your discomfort is not more important than mine.
Yeah.
So how about we start doing this?
I
and
love
start
that.
facing
I love
head
it.
on. So find your voice. Find your voice. That's the first step. Find your voice. Number 2, do not shy away from the conversation. Meaning, don't think that because you're the victim or because you're in this situation where you're discriminated against, that makes your experiences, your words, your sentences more important and more,
Than everybody else's.
priority than they are. They have a position as well. They have a perspective. Listen. It is very important to listen, because if you want to be listened to, you have to listen as well. And when they say something you don't like, that's not when you turn into the Hulk. No, it is the time to now process it and look for where it's true.
Yeah.
It is that's the exact junction that you're looking for. You're not looking for where you align. That's not where the problem is. The
Where you
problem is where
don't.
you don't align.
Exactly.
So where you're looking for is that place where you guys actually separate, where the commonality between both of you, the thread bifurcates. And that's where you go, okay, I'm going west now. I understand that your compass is pointing east. How about this? Let's both stay in our lanes, but let's provide each other a set of guidelines that allows us to coexist and still thrive. That's what's important. Not coexist and kind of manage and trudge along. No.
I like that.
Thrive.
Coexist and still thrive.
We both need to be able to thrive while we're still going our way. That's fine. It's okay to be different. It's okay for you to vote for Trump. Maybe the reason you're voting for Trump is his economic policy. They are strong.
That's so true.
I mean, fact is fact.
That's fine.
That is so true.
Okay.
I think
but
that's the
what I
problem with
don't
human
want.
beings.
Yes, but what I don't
like
want
we
is
all
while
have
you're saying you vote, while you're saying you're voting for Trump because of his economic policies or because of whatever, don't now, use that thread to attack my existence.
That's it.
I don't want that. The minute you do that, there's going to be a problem. So how about this? Let's agree to disagree, but here are my boundaries. Here are your boundaries. I won't cross them. You won't cross them. Fist bump.
Absolutely.
That's it. Have a voice. Do not shy away from the conversation. Listen, and then compromise.
Brilliant.
Compromise without abdicating on your own values.
That's it.
That's it. And do it in small groups, because when you affect one person, I'm not looking for you to impact like your big community. One person.
Change one.
And I'm going to sign up, but I'm going to tell you guys one last story. One very last story. This happened yesterday as well.
This one yesterday too.
So I sent
You
out that
had a
email
very
that I told you
productive,
about.
eventful day yesterday.
A productive week.
Not productive, eventful. Sorry, eventful is the word.
Exactly, eventful. So I had sent out that email that I talked to you guys about on Sunday, right? Where I just sent it to my own peers and my boss. And the email just literally just talked about, my husband's experiences and the fact that he's somehow just, okay with it, because guess what? He's been able to figure out his way and maneuver. He's wise. He's very wise. I call him an owl. He's been able to maneuver where he's able to thrive, and he feels like he's not compromising who he is. Fine. I have a problem with it, right? And I want you guys to just understand that his very existence is actually a set of compromises, a set of conscious decisions, how he speaks, what he wears, where he goes, when he jogs, who protects him, all of those things combined together. There's a set of these, guidelines that are designed to make you comfortable, not to make him comfortable, to make you comfortable. And so when people are talking about, the unrest and the looting and blah, 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 I said, do me a favor, take a moment, right, to redirect the conversation to the death of a man. His name is George Floyd. And then use him as a symbol of the death of other men, the discrimination and the injustices, and the very, mundane decisions that we have to make every day just for your comfort. I said, do it for me. And so that's the summary of the email. I sent it on Sunday. And, a lot of my colleagues sent me emails going, my God, I could never have imagined, like literally my brain exploded. This is what you're going through. I'm really sorry. I was like, we're going to be fine. We're fine. I'm not looking for your empathy. I'm looking for your voice. I'm looking for you to actually educate your community, to educate your family. And so we've had that conversation, but one, of my colleagues in particular had not responded. And honestly, I noticed it, but I didn't think about it because it was a very busy week. It went really fast. I noticed it, but I wasn't offended that he hadn't responded or that he had, that he hadn't reached out, because I hadn't had the time to realize that he hadn't. I had enough conversation with others that him not responding, and between him not responding and me being busy and all the stuff on CNN, and the tornado we had on Wednesday, I don't have the time to process the fact that, wait, why hasn't he responded? You know what I'm saying? Why is it the only one? I had not processed it. So yesterday I'm done with work. I'm trying to hurry so I can go on a walk with Remike. And just as I was about to close my laptop, I get a Teams call and it's his number, and I'm like, oh, now he's responding. And I looked at it. I swear to God, I looked at that phone for like a good 5 seconds while that thing rang. And I was like, should I pick it up? I'm done. Remike is waiting for me. I really need to go shower and go on this walk. It's getting dark. I don't have power. I was like, I'll just answer him, because I made a personal, decision to just be more vocal about it, to be more active within the organization. I said, I'm going to go answer in 5 minutes. I'll be like, oh, thank you for reaching. I really appreciate it, blah, 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 and I'll move on. It was going to be a quick conversation. And I pick up the phone and he said, hey, Tosin. I said, hey, how you doing? And he was like, well, I'm not calling about work. It's personal. Do you have 5 minutes? I said, sure. Knowing fully well that's why he's calling, because he had been the only one that hadn't called. And I said, sure. And he said, well, I'm calling about your note. I said, yeah. And then it was really quiet. It was awkward silence. And he was crying.
Oh, wow. I can't deal with people crying.
White, burly guy.
Sorry, I can't.
And
it's
I'm like,
really hard for me
God.
to be.
And I realized this somebody that subconsciously I had thought, I had thought that.
He doesn't care.
Oh, really?
I hadn't fully processed it, but subconsciously, because he hadn't responded, I thought, whatever. He's one of them.
Yeah.
Even I hadn't admitted that I thought that.
Oh, wow.
So, because I was so busy, I hadn't caught up with my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts. I just hadn't caught up with them. So when he called, when I rolled my eyes was when I thought, Tosin, come on.
Give him a chance.
And then I picked up the phone, and within the first 30 seconds, I realized this guy is really emotional. And then I went, oh my goodness, Tosin, look what you thought, and look what it is.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm
communication is so important?
saying?
As I say, people don't
completely missed the mark. I cannot tell you how much I missed the mark on this guy, because we then went on to have another 20-minute conversation where he told me, and I'm going to start crying again. He told me that when he saw my email on Sunday, that his family is pro-Trump. They live in, I don't want to say the state because everybody will know who he is now. They live in a Republican state. And he sat down his sons and his wife, and he read my email to them. His 13-year-old and 16-year-old son were in tears. His wife was in tears, and he was in tears. This guy's whole family is reading my email, which I thought was just for them. And they're so moved by this email that his 13 and 16-year-old both posted my email on Snapchat. And it has been posted so many times. I'm
Wow.
not on Snapchat, so how would I have known? And their friends have reposted it. And they're talking about it. And by the way, he's telling me this, he can barely complete sentence to sentence. He's really emotional.
And so what happened for him in that
And I'm like,
moment,
you have no idea. I told him, I said, you have no idea what you've done for me. I said, because even if this situation or this issue is not resolved in my lifetime, now I know, because remember, I have a 7 and a 9-year-old. They're going to grow up with that 13 and 16-year-old. Now I know that the world that my kids are going to be in is going to be full of, people around their age who are not going to tolerate.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I said, that's what you've done for me. He said, Tosin, you're so wrong. What you've done for me is you took a pair of white boys, white privileged boys who just lived in their bubble. They're okay. They know racism, but it doesn't affect them. Their mother and their father, my parents, he shared it with his own parents, and you completely turned a whole family around.
In terms of
He
how
said
they're
your
thinking.
email was so powerful.
Yeah.
Your husband's life was so powerful to me that you would never, ever understand what that did for my family. I'm not apologizing to you, but I'm promising you.
The black man. That's what you did. You humanized the black man. You showed that
He said, I'm not apologizing to you.
an issue. Just as you get up in the morning,
That's what it is.
go to work, so my husband gets up in the morning, goes out and goes to go to work.
But he's got to pick. But instead of picking a navy blue shirt or a black shirt, he's like, no, that's gonna make me look threatening. I gotta wear a baby blue shirt.
That's it.
Or a yellow shirt or white shirt. That's his go-to color.
But it's about humanization.
You know what I'm saying?
Showing that we are the same. We have more in common than we are different. People.
But you know what sets him apart for me is that out of all the responses and all the emails and the conversations I had,
his was authentic.
That was an actual response.
He took an action. Yes, he did.
It wasn't the crying. It was an actionable response.
Don't cry. I'm tired of the crying.
Come and cry.
No, but no. You see, he cried because he was emotional, but he did something. What has happened for decades is that people
he did something
and it stops there.
He did something about it.
Cry.
I cannot even. I have not one that I actually think that was the best response I had received in Comcast.
It sounds like it.
It was very authentic, and not only was it authentic, it wasn't apologetic. He wasn't sorry. For me, it wasn't sympathy.
Let's be real. All the people that called you and
he
said
did something about it.
Those ones did something too. They took action. But this guy took meaningful action. Yes. Action that made a difference. So it's not about statements. It's not about you calling, tell me, oh, I'm so sorry. Do something meaningful. Something that is real, that is authentic.
About it.
That solves the solution.
So maybe people should be sharing the experiences a bit more.
How so? Elaborate.
So for instance, Tosin wrote what surprised me, and it just took me a while to figure out that this is what you've done. Tosin, when you said you were penning a message to your team, I thought you were giving your thoughts. You were going to be giving your thoughts on the situation and how this is a terrible thing that's happened and all the rest of it, which is what most people have been doing. But what you did was you were like, right, okay, within this landscape, this is my personal experience of this is how my life is. Now someone else will have, okay, this is my story. Someone else and when it's the stories, it's those stories actually, like you said, that humanize and make it real. But if we just keep going on and and sort of doing the big broad brush statements and big broad brush kind of comments and people should be, don't be silent, it makes you complicit, or whatever it is, that all the preachy stuff that's going on at the moment. Whereas you didn't preach to anyone. You're just like, you know what, this is the reality I'm living. Here you are, have a look. And they had a look, because you remember, you're not preaching at them. They had a look. They had a look, and they were like, that's really horrible. And you're like, well,
that's not
my reality. That's my lived experience.
That's my reality.
Once you can make, I think people find it really powerful when they can put themselves in shoes and go,
your shoes.
I would
empathy, not sympathy. Not empathy.
Empathy.
Not sympathy.
Gosh, if that was me, how would I deal with that? And you make it feel,
how would I feel,
so real that they go, this,
I can't ignore this.
I can't ignore this. I can't just step over this like I normally would. And that's what you did with your letter.
Yeah, you know, there's something I do that I've noticed is always works. It works all the time. Obviously, you know that London's like really busy and people are always shoving and pushing, and you know, when people are trying to get to, you know, go get to work and stuff like that. I was when I was expecting my last daughter, who's 8 now. I was quite heavily pregnant, and this is, you know, this guy just, you know, pushed past me, and you know, trying to, you know, and then he and then somebody tutted, I guess, you know, sort of like to, and then he, you know, he turns around, and you can see, and it's really funny, I don't know what, even when people are wrong, it's a psychological thing, it's like that, it's the ego. Even when you're wrong, if you're called up on it, you know, instead of, you still just want to like either justify your actions or label the point. And I said, no, it's fine, you've obviously got, obviously in a hurry, so that's fine, you know, kind of thing. And I noticed that when you almost like return menace with kindness, and I do it strategically, I do it specifically, I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it, that, you know, if you're going to come at me like this, I'm just going to come at you like that, and it always de-escalates, it always takes people down, always makes people ashamed. Whereas if you say, you are so terrible,
what it does is it dismantles their walls.
He's going to turn around and then be justified.
Their defense.
But if I say, oh no, you know, it's fine, like, you know, obviously I'm heavily pregnant, so I'm going to be, you know, obviously waddling, you know, you're in a hurry. And he was like, I'm really sorry. And, you know, and I thought he would not have apologized if I hadn't said that, if I'd screamed at him. And I just find, I do things like that in most of my situations, even with my friends, even in family situations, and it works all the time. I just think it's that kind of like, I'm not going to tell you about yourself, because then, and if anything, that even makes me feel like I'm, you know, that actually I'm then judgmental, aren't I? I'm just going to hold the mirror so you can see it yourself, and then you can decide if you think it's good or not, you know, and let's leave it at that. So so that's what I think, that, you know, that's why you know, what you've done has really resonated with me. It's my style for a start. And so I thought, so I'm thinking to myself, oh God, here's a nice quick win, because that's how I'd like to operate. So if that can work, then I could definitely do things like that. Because I was thinking to myself, should I post something on LinkedIn? But I don't want to post for the sake of posting. I don't want to like, oh, you know, everyone's adding their voice, let me add my voice, let me, and just you know, spew out platitudes.
For that reason, I haven't posted.
Yeah, if
for
I want
that
to
reason, Nikki, I haven't posted.
But for instance, that note that you sent to that's the kind of thing that, you know, we should be seeing, that, you know, someone should, you know, sort of, that these are the kind of stories that should start, you know, those collective stories that we start to build and curate and build a picture of, like, this is what our lives look like, because people don't realize that this is what our lives look like. So what people see is, you know, is the big news pieces that, oh, someone's been killed, or someone's, you know, but not the mundane everyday. Yeah. And they're not going to see that, to be fair. Why would they see that?
It's not in the interest of the media or the perpetrators of racist thoughts and sentiments to show the human everyday mundane side of this evil. Because
so maybe we should take ownership of that and use our voices to share those.
To humanize ourselves, humanize our voice, humanize the whole thing. And I think by humanizing it, you will effectively see a dismantling of racism. Because for racists to thrive, they have to stop seeing you as a person. There's a disassociation.
It's the only way it can work.
It's the only way
Hitler was able to eliminate
the Jews. They have to disassociate themselves from you.
Absolutely, it's the only way it works.
And so for you to you know, to
and acknowledge their discomfort too.
Martin Luther King was able to suddenly galvanize a load of support when, you know, white America saw people sitting peacefully.
He came from a place of love
and not doing anything and being beaten, you know. And it's just like, but this does happen all the time, you know. And then so many people, like, veils were lifted that, you know, they were like shocked. I can't believe, you know, that's inhumane though. And it's like, yeah, but this is what happens all the time, you know. Whereas if they were fighting and, you know, and all the rest of it, then, you know, obviously they wouldn't. I'm not saying that, it's a shame that that has to be the way it is, that, you know, and it shouldn't be that way, that like, well, okay, let me have everyone, let me be let me be live, beaten up, and then everyone will see. And it's a shame that it has to go, you know, that far. But
even for the people who are, sorry, Nika, even for the people who are giving themselves an outlet by being angry and having to be forced to take to the streets and to feel like they have to yell out loud in order to be taken seriously and to be heard. It's a shame that it has to be like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a shame.
Sometimes there is no rainbow without the rain.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a process you have to go through in order for you to start to have meaningful conversations. I completely agree with everything Tosin said. I think in addition to what Tosin said and the question that you asked, Ugo, this week, after taking my time and just initially trying to engage with people under people's posts before I effectively ended up writing my own post this morning, because I didn't want to rush to write anything, and I wasn't even sure how effective it was going to be. I don't have a platform. I'm not a celebrity. I'm experiencing it, and I can only talk about my own experience.
Yeah.
Really, and I'm not a voice for Black America or African Americans. I'm a voice for
right. You better say that.
No, I can only share my own experience and try and educate and influence people in my own circle to start off with. But one thing I wanted, and I said this to someone today who had gone back and forth. Gosh, it was such a long post. She and this other guy from BlackRock had gone back and forth. It was bitter. It was ugly in the comments. And I just went under her post and I said, I'm going to share a post. I actually wrote it today and stuck it on my screen. I said, I'm going to share with you a quote that I came across today. And I said, protect your energy from people who are committed to misunderstanding you for their own comfort.
There you go.
I said, if you look at all the stuff that you've written, you've made your point over and over and
He's not going to get it.
And over. This person is determined to misunderstand.
Has made a decision. It's a decision. It's not
making that decision.
They're not going to get it. So let it go.
Know when to protect your energy. Save your energy for the people that you're going to convert. This is not, you don't need to engage in this war with this person, because by the act of what you're doing, you're at war with them. Yeah. And they're feeding off of your energy.
And it's very depleting.
You're going to be exhausted.
It's very depleting. It actually it's very counter to what you need.
That's counterproductive.
So that's just as important.
It's just as important.
Yeah, that's just as important.
I was just going to say, Nick, I just didn't want to interrupt her, because I have to go. By the way, my battery is at 2%. So if it cuts off, you know, I really enjoyed this.
We have to wrap this up. We can talk about this for another.
So you're blue in the face, really.
Yeah, we could talk about this for another day. Ladies,
another day.
Thank you for your time. I just want to end on a note of hope. What you shared, Tosin, what I see around me, the people I do speak to, I'm very hopeful that going forward, things will actually change. That the generation coming behind us are actually very socially active, very socially conscious. And they honestly do truly want something different for the world. So fingers crossed, you know, I pray they're not having the same conversation in another 50 years, because
Amen.